Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Very exciting, fun Friday afternoon activity. Glad you could be here. My name is Kirsten O'Brien, and I am currently on the T-Mobile. Oh man, I didn't think about I'm on a team that has quite a long name, but I think essentially you could distill it down to the executive brand team. So it's housed in a larger corporate communications org, and we essentially work with our executives to do everything from their social media to placing them on podcasts and doing speaking events and all sorts of things related to that and their presence. I have with me for now Caroline and Rob, and I'll let them.
Allie just joined too. Allie just joined us.
Oh, great. Great. Yeah, I think some T-Mobile folks are going to be kind of trickling in as we go throughout this. So we may stop for some more intros, but yeah. Rob, do you want to tell people about who you are?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Rob Wolf. I'm a senior director of executive brand team at T-Mobile. And so Kirsten did a good job of explaining what we do. The way I like to sometimes describe it is we tell the T-Mobile stories through the eyes of our executives. Or another way to put it is like we help our executives tell the T-Mobile story through their personal lens. And so whether it's through their social media or their podcast appearances, all that kind of stuff, that's what we try and do. And it's interesting because I think people can communicate in ways that complement the way brands communicate. And so we do have there's a team that does the T-Mobile brand social channels. We are not them, but we work with our senior executives and do a lot of work on sharing the magenta love.
Sure. And Rob is my boss, so yeah. Caroline, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I can go next. Hi, everyone. My name is Caroline Coe. I am a senior recruiter at T-Mobile. I have the pleasure of supporting our communication organization, or core, what we call it, communications, responsibility, and events. So including, PR, employee internal communications, corporate and social responsibility, ESG, sustainability, and events. I am the lucky person who gets to support this team. So glad to be here and to share more information with you guys. And I'm a Husky alum too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess I should also mention that I myself am a graduate of this program. I was cohort 14. I graduated in 2016, which seems like a long time ago now, but I guess it kind of was. But so I have definitely been in your seat and I have been where you are. So and then, yeah, Allie, thank you also for joining. Do you want to just give a quick intro about who you are and what you do?
Sure. My name is Allie. I am also on the exec social team. Rob is also my boss, and I'm a senior manager on the team. So I manage two of our social media managers, as well as one of our exec social programs, all of our Un-carrier campaigns, and the brand LinkedIn page.
Awesome. Yay, Tayshawn. I love that we're having people kind of trickle in. Do you just want to give a quick intro and tell everybody who you are and what you do?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Tayshawn Green, and I'm a social media manager, and I'm with the team with everyone else. I am pretty much like a creative, someone that does video editing, photos, social writing, all that fun stuff. So I'm kind of a, interesting toolbox of tools.
Yeah, we've kind of got a lot of good skills in this team that we can tap, which is great. So I was thinking that I would kind of start by just giving sort of maybe a deeper overview about the work that our team does specifically, and then Caroline, maybe we could toss it over to you and you could speak more to kind of the hiring process and roles and that sort of like logistical piece about how folks might get a job here. So I am going to share my screen real quick and let's take a look. Okay, you guys can see this screen. We have our lovely VP's face. This is just an internal page that I thought would be good to pull up, just sort of about our team specifically. So you can kind of see under the key deliverables, like all of the sorts of like things that our team is responsible for. And it's a really wide like range of activities that we do. So, you know, I specifically am working on sort of the executive blogs and the speaking opportunities. Allie, counterpart, does like social content, things like that. Tayshawn, of course, like fills in and helps across the team and across various execs. We support 5 main executives. So I don't know, maybe that sounds like a lot, maybe it sounds like a little. It does end up being, you know, these are all full-time jobs. It is a lot going on to manage the presences of these people, and T-Mobile obviously is a very large company, you know, so we've always got a lot going on. So across the team, you know, we're also working with folks who do all of our financial communications, brand values, PR. So I know in the past, I've talked to some folks who are really interested in DE&I communications, environmental and sustainability stuff. A lot of that is also housed on our team under the brand values, broadly we call it. We also do, you know, a lot of the owned storytelling. So that's stuff published on our newsroom, that's stuff that, you know, comes from T-Mobile, as well as paid placement of things. So that's sponsored articles, that's all sorts of things around that. Then of course, we also have the reputation issues. So I don't know if anyone has ever, you know, done any crisis communications, but that team is a kind of a small and mighty team. And then they're ones fielding questions from media that come into sort of the media relations inbox. If there's any sort of like, you know, if there is an issue or something that needs to be managed, they'll kind of jump in and do that. We also have a whole legislative sort of lobbying, or not lobbying, but like, it's like, you know, DC legislator communications, things like that, working with folks in Washington. And then we also own the entire sort of like back end kind of newsroom tool. So like our in-house blog, there's a team that manages and does upkeep for that tool. So, you know, we do a lot. This team has a very, you know, we touch a lot of different areas of the business, and we get to work across a lot of really exciting sort of communications topics, brand building, storytelling, working really closely with marketing and PR. So it's a great, you know, it's a great team to be on. We definitely get, I think, are in a unique position. Is there anyone else from T-Mobile that kind of wants to add anything or say anything just about maybe like talk about what's like a day in your life like?
Well, one thing I'll add is, you know, I just came to T-Mobile about 1.5 years ago, so I still am relatively new. At T-Mobile, you encounter people that have been there 15, 20 years, and people come to T-Mobile and they stay for a really long time. But one of the reasons I was attracted to the company is because T-Mobile really did a great job. It was one of the first companies that I saw use their executives to really tell the brand story and tell, you know, have a real presence on social media and really move the needle for the business. And so we had a previous CEO, John Ledger, who was, you know, very bombastic and had a certain style. And now we have a different CEO with much different style of his own. But I like the fact that the company invests in this discipline. So our CEO is on social media, but so too is our CMO and our president of technology and the woman who runs our business division. And by using all of their voices, we can talk to different audiences. We can talk to a technical audience. We can talk to potential brand partners. We can talk to CTOs at major enterprises. And so we try not to say the same things with all of the executives that we work with, but instead sort of come up with a target audience that they're going to go after. So that's kind of an interesting part of our team and what we do. And I haven't seen many other companies that invest that much in executive social or have as much of a presence. A lot of CEOs are on social, but they don't go to that next level of leaders.
Yeah, that's a great point, Rob. I really do think that what T-Mobile is doing in terms of using executive voices for using them as a storytelling lever is very interesting. I think it's an interesting sort of communication strategy, and one that I also had not seen a company do before. My background, actually, I used to be a journalist. So I worked at the Seattle PI, and then I worked at the Seattle Times. So I'm a local. They were the newspapers that I grew up reading. So my background is really in that sort of like hard news, traditional journalism. And after I left, I spent some time at a nonprofit, and then I came here, and I feel like I've really been able to use a lot of the skills that honestly that the program taught me. So it's been great. Really quick, Emily, I see you just joined. Do you want to give a brief intro to everyone who is watching? Just tell us a little bit about your role at T-Mobile and what you do.
Yeah, so sorry about that. I was
That's
heads
okay.
down on another project, but so nice to be on a call with you all. I, of course, work at T-Mobile, and I help across our PR for DE&I, so diversity, equity, and inclusion, corporate social responsibility. I lead up a lot of our corporate awards. Yeah, a lot of different aspects to this, but happy to answer any questions you all might have around those areas.
Yeah, thanks, Emily. On a past call that I was on, there was a lot of interest around DE&I comms, CSR. I think that your presence is going to be really valuable and a good resource for people. Allie, I know that your background, I think, could be pretty interesting to folks. Do you kind of want to just speak more about kind of your role and what's like a day in the life for you, like, and just sort of like how you got to where you are now here at T-Mobile?
Sure. So I come from an agency background and then additionally brand background. And so I've had experience in marketing holistically with the different channels and types of marketing, but my main focus throughout my career has been in social. So I was brought on to the exec social team specifically to focus on a new exec that they were bringing on board to the team. And when we consider who we're bringing on board, it's not like, oh, well, we've got some time, so let's just bring on this other person and let's support them. It's a really big investment, both time-wise and monetarily wise, when we look at an exec and bring them on to the team, because they not only get social support, which everything from social, from strategy building to targeting audiences, to building audiences, to copywriting, to creative assets, to campaign support. They also get the thought leadership side of things, where it's not just writing long articles or blogs, but looking into podcast opportunities, TV interviews and broadcast opportunities, magazine articles, things like that. So it's a really big holistic program, and it takes a lot of people to support it and to support it well. So I was initially brought on to support one of our execs who was brand new to the exec social team, and then moved to support a different exec, Mike Katz, who is our president of marketing, innovation, and experience. And so it was really kind of interesting because he actually switched his role. He used to be our president of T-Mobile for Business. And so when he took this new role as the president of marketing, his entire audience was mismatched to his new focus. And so there was a big lift in terms of how do we, one, make sure that people know, hey, this guy is now our president of marketing, and two, what are we going to talk about with him? What's important to him? What's important to the business? How do we align those two things? And then three, how do we build this new audience for him without losing the audience that he had spent many years building with another social manager? So that's what we've been working on for the last a little over a year now. And Kirsten has been a huge partner in that, because she does all of his thought leadership components. And I think we've made a lot of really good strides in making sure his voice is aligning to the right audiences, and that we continue to build the right audiences for him. So that's kind of one of those unique things that we ended up doing over the last year and a half. And it's been a really, really fun, really challenging. And we have great partners on the team. Everybody is so smart in different ways that if you get stuck, you can just turn and go, okay, this is where I'm at. What do you think? And people will jump in and help out because everybody has really unique experiences.
Yeah. And I think thanks, Allie. I think that's a good segue into Tayshawn. I think that, kind of the skills that you bring to the team, your video editing skills and sort of the creative work that you do, I think that could be really interesting to the students we have here. I know that the Comm Lead program has, classes on video editing and video production and just sort of that multimedia component. Do you want to talk a little bit more about kind of your background and some of the things that you've done while you've been here so far?
Yeah. So really my background, so my degree is in marketing, but I just have a rather creative brain. And so my passions lie in photography, videography, and a lot of those creative areas. And so I, really tried to put together, at least tried to think about what that was going to look like. And admittedly, there were a couple of things that I wanted to do in college that, my mom was like, yeah, I'm not going to really let you do that, but you can try if you'd like to. And so I kind of took it upon myself to learn those skills. And so had, my own equipment, things like that. But any opportunity that I had to, make videos, tell stories, take pictures, craft social media posts, things like that, I really attempted to do that. And so I think all of those skills that I've been able to teach myself over the years has really helped, especially at T-Mobile, where, especially on the executive social team, there's always something going on. We're always doing something. And so most recently, we've had, I believe it was Earth Day, where we wanted to highlight some of the people on our ESG team. And I apologize, I don't remember what ESG stands for at this moment. But, being able to take those skills within a drop of a hat to organize interviews and things like that with members and know that I would be able to edit all of those things with that background was really easy and a really nice thing to be able to say I could do. And so honestly, if you're thinking about these different things, don't be afraid to try new things, even if it doesn't really feel like something you might totally mesh with. As long as you've tried it and you've recognized that, then I think that's what works a lot. And even kind of to add on, and then I'll wrap it up. If you have not created a portfolio already of the work that you've done, now is the time to do so. While you're still in these classes, while you're still working on things, you would be extremely surprised how important those are to, I would say, not only to people like us at T-Mobile, but also your peers and people that want to look at your stuff and your talent. So.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thanks, Tayshawn.
Yeah. One thing I'd add to that, just on that point about a portfolio, is don't just think of a portfolio as your, Photoshop work and your video work. It's also things you've done on social media, things that you've written, things that you want people to see. One of the things I often look at when we're interviewing candidates is, do they walk the walk? Are they doing it themselves? Are they active on social media? And if so, are they saying something interesting? So I would encourage you to, if you're not writing on LinkedIn or, getting out there and doing something interesting with your Instagram account, definitely try that and do it, or do it as a volunteer for some organization you're passionate about. If you're looking to get some experience doing that, volunteer your services and build up that portfolio.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Rob. Caroline, I want to make sure that we give you plenty of time because I think that people are going to be very interested in what you have to say. But I'm wondering if maybe we could take a pause to answer just maybe some couple of questions. Liao or Jesse, I don't know if you've been I see we've kind of have a lot of conversation here, but if there are any good ones, maybe we could answer one or two of them, and then Caroline, you could kind of take the floor and we could get more into all the good logistics of getting hired here.
Yes. So I don't see any questions so far, but I believe our students are listening to the conversation very carefully. But feel free to unmute yourself and turn on your camera if you have any questions right now, or you can wait until the end. But I encourage you to take the opportunity if you want to unmute yourself now.
I do see a comment from Kola Wang, who wanted to know more about T-Mobile's content marketing and concepts. Kola, can you jump on and maybe give us a little bit more detail on what you're interested in learning?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Kola. Can you hear me now? Okay. Hi. Actually, I'm like I used to work at the advertising agency, so the things I learn more about like marketing or selling products. So it's more like sale marketing. So I don't know much about about branding. I think it's a different concept, and so I was always first concept or first image I get from T-Mobile is that purple red color of the whole brand.
Magenta.
And like when you walk on the street and you can see the whole shop is like it's kind of pink actually. So that's what I'm curious about, like how this color or the logo or the branding like has this consistency, or like how does this, why you choose, like for if I want to be specific, like why you choose this color for your branding, like does it have anything to do with it? That's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, that's a great question, and definitely predates my time here. I think probably all of ours,
All
but
of us, yeah.
yeah, I guess I can say that I do think that, when Tayshawn runs into this all the time, like when we are, designing materials or content to go out on social, we do have very specific like brand guidelines. I think that, that's something that is universal for a lot of companies of our size, is really making sure that everything looks uniform, it feels cohesive. I think that, yeah, the fact that the color stands out to you, I don't know if it's necessarily that the color itself says anything about the phone service, but just the fact that like you associate this magenta color with T-Mobile, like that right there is a success to us. And we do, spend a lot of time throughout, whatever we're creating, making sure that it fits the tone, the style, the visual look. We do have a whole separate sort of creative agency within T-Mobile. They're called T Studios. And that is a large team of designers, of videographers, of photographers, of, all these sorts of creative professions or fields. And that sort of, their whole thing is making sure that they're adhering to a distinct visual style that's consistent. Because, that is something very important to a brand as big as ours, when we do have so many different products and services, making sure that someone, looks at something and within like a split second, they're like, oh, I see the magenta, I know that's T-Mobile. I don't know if anyone has anything to add to that. Unfortunately, I don't know the origin story of why we chose magenta.
Explain the story behind your sweatshirt.
Oh yeah, the story behind my sweatshirt. So this was an April Fool's Day campaign. You can see, well, I guess maybe backwards for you guys. It says new magenta and then original magenta. And the whole campaign was around that we were changing our color and it's a new magenta. But if you notice, it's exactly the same color. It's the same magenta. So that was a fun little April Fool's joke that we did last year. I do think that T-Mobile is a little bit more, we are playful, that's part of the brand. We do, a lot of fun, kind of more stunty things like that I think also, is very deeply ingrained in in the culture.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, okay, so I think these next two questions kind of lend really well into maybe more of Caroline's side of things. We've got questions on, yeah, positions relevant to UX research, market research, internships, all sorts of things like that.
Yeah. So for our UX and UI positions, so they do fall under our digital marketing organization, which sits in marketing. So whether if that's UX product design. So if that's, desktop applications, mobile applications, we also hire designers that work within what we call ARC, which is our Accessibility Resource Center. So looking at ways to ensure that our applications and websites are accessible by anyone, who may or may not have a disability. So because that falls outside of communications, it's handled by a different recruiting team. So I don't know offhand what positions we have available, but Liao, I actually just sent you an email because it seems that UX and UI seems to be a pretty popular area of interest for these students. I want to see if perhaps there's an opportunity to make an introduction to our director of our user experience and strategy team to see if there could be, anything that we could do there. So maybe we can take that offline and then we can talk more about, see what opportunities there could be within the UX and market research group. And then the other question about internships. So, I don't know how often we post fall internships. I do see occasionally where summer internships will extend into the fall or even winter. Some of it, I think, just depends on the situation. If the project or the work gets extended, if the person's knocking it out of the park and there's budget to keep that person on for longer, that's a possibility. But typically they are for the summer, generally for 12 weeks. I think we're actually getting towards the end because I think we've got some folks that will be either joining or wrapping up final interviews to start their internship within the next month or so. It is handled by a different recruiting team. We have a early in careers recruiting team that supports intern hiring, both undergrad and graduate. And then for opportunities where they're essentially converting interns into full-time permanent positions, that team also supports that as well. I think Shamiksha, you had a question, does having previous experience in the field matter for an internship? I mean, I think absolutely. If you've had a prior internship, if you've had a college project related to the work, that would be incredibly helpful. But I think with internships, I mean, you're gaining work experience. So I don't want also students to worry that if they don't have experience yet, that they will be at a disadvantage. I mean, this is your opportunity, right? To gain that corporate experience that you're wanting to get, where you're learning something in a school setting and then being able to apply it at work. So I would say, if you don't have work experience applicable to the internship that you're applying for, I would just list the school courses that you're taking, if there's anything on the side that you have been doing, particularly if you're helping out with a friend creating an app or helping out with a friend's company with some social media posts, right? So anything that shows, right, any type of experience that would be helpful. So I hope that helps.
Thank you, Caroline. I see another question from Kola Wong. She's wondering, or they're wondering, how do your team evaluate or measure success for a marketing campaign? So this is a question that she has been, or they have been considering for a while.
Well, I can start and then I'll ask others to chime in and help. This is sort of the age-old question in marketing, and it's difficult sometimes, especially for a discipline like ours, where we're not just trying to sell phone plans, and like in the long run, we all are. But more importantly, we want our executives to sort of put a face on the company, and there's a lot of benefits that they provide. They can attract talent. they can make our employees feel better about the company. They can, get across some of our policy positions. They can share our values as a company. So it's sometimes that stuff is a little bit more difficult. And sometimes what you need to do is do sort of traditional market research. And that's expensive, but that's how you're going to get the answer as to, is this moving the needle on the business? Is this getting people to think of T-Mobile as one of the brands that they want to consider? Is it is it something that they prefer, and is it something they would recommend to other people? So within the world of executive communications, there's a lot that we look at in terms of how to measure success. And then if you get to other marketing disciplines like more digital advertising or something, that's a little bit easier to manage because you can track it all, and sometimes you can track it back to, did somebody sign up for a phone plan? And so that's a little bit easier. But for us, we're dealing with some of those more subjective measures and some of those more subjective things we're trying to get across about the company.
Cool. Thank you so much, Rob.
Yeah,
Another
I would
question-
also add to that
Please.
is that there's usually two components that you want to try to marry overarchingly with a campaign success, right? You need to find out what the goal is of that campaign, and then how you're going to achieve that goal using the channels that you manage, right? Like with the comments that Rob made, our channel isn't a direct, here's the pitch to buy a phone, you go out and buy it, right? We're way higher up in the funnel. And so it's harder for us to say holistically, this campaign was a success because it drove X amount of revenue. Like that's something that our channels really typically are very difficult to track. So if we come up with, if our goal for a larger campaign is to make people aware that we've got this new function, we've got this new item, we've got whatever it is, then that's where we can play into it, right? And we can say, okay, so we can play in the awareness field. And with that goal in mind, we can look at impressions, engagements, and really drive the needle that way. So it's not a direct dollar to dollar type of campaign, but it's more of holistically, what's that goal? How can our channel help achieve it? Because we're going to have a ton of other channels that we don't manage who are also doing the same thing within that same campaign. So then we have one channel that might really drive that ROI and that dollar to dollar. And so that would be their responsibility. So each of the marketing components play an important role into it. It's just social is always a little bit harder when it comes to like how we're going to track it.
Cool. Thank you, Ellie. Another question comes from Sunny. Sunny is interested in marketing job opportunity, like full-time job. So Sunny is wondering if anyone in the team could share one or two things that could make their resume stand out, and also what kind of candidates you will be interested in giving an interview opportunity, or what kind of candidates or personality will fit your company culture. I don't know if that would be a question for Caroline or someone else on the team, or from the hiring manager like Rob. Yeah.
I could
Caroline,
start.
why don't you start? Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like we are in an interesting time in this market. Whether if it's a candidate market or on the flip. I think, right now we're in a time where there's a lot of talent out there and seasoned talent. So I think sometimes for candidates, it could feel like a challenge, right? When you're up against a lot of other really, really good talent with similar experiences and backgrounds. And not to say one is better than the other. I think, for me, the candidates that have left more lasting impressions on me have been the ones who genuinely are interested in T-Mobile, right? Like they're not just applying for the sake of applying, or that they're applying just to fulfill, their own agenda, but someone who can see themselves fitting within T-Mobile and what we stand for and why. Whether if it's, our mission statement, whether it's, our mission for, connecting people around the world, or they've had a personal story, or they are a former and active military and they see our involvement right within that community. So for me, when I've talked to people who have researched on our company, who've had connections with people who have either worked at T-Mobile, I can't tell you how many times when I ask people that question, why T-Mobile, probably 8 out of 10 times people say it's because they are a T-Mobile customer and they have first-handedly experienced the difference being a T-Mobile customer than with a different carrier, right? And so having experienced that themselves as a customer, now they want to pay it forward by working within the company, and how can they pay it forward, to our customers, right? And to our consumers. So for me, I think those are the things that I look for. It's those ads, right, that we want to bring to T-Mobile that, makes our company such a wonderful and diverse group. So yeah, I don't know if anyone else wants to add to that, especially for those that are on a hiring panel or.
Yeah, I'll add a couple things. First, on a tactical level, your resume, don't just tell me what you were responsible for, tell me what you delivered. So I think a lot of times I see resumes that sort of say what your job responsibilities entailed, but tell me about the impact you had. You saved the company X millions of dollars, or you managed a budget of, so-and-so and drove ROI from this to that. That's really good to see on a resume. I also, just based on the type of work we do, I would like to see on your resume that, you're sharing your LinkedIn profile, your Twitter profile, and I can go look at that and see how you present ideas, how you tell stories yourself. And that's really interesting to me. And then also, I think when I'm talking to candidates, the ones that really jump out are the ones that have really done their homework, and they come prepared to have a conversation, almost like sit with me and talk about how they would do the job, and almost like feel like a coworker in that moment. You don't want to be too presumptuous about it, but definitely like take on that mantle where the interviewer can see you in that role. So I think that's a really good way to approach interviews. And then finally, something I like to do, something I did when I got my current job, is I created a leave behind. I wrote up this document about here's what I'd do if you gave me this job. And I said, look, I don't presume to know your business better than you do. I'm looking at this with fresh eyes, but here's some ideas. And nobody asked me to do it, but nobody told me I couldn't either. So I think that was one way in which you can stand out as a candidate and really set yourself apart, showing that you really came prepared and you're thinking about all the things on the job description and what you'd be doing in the job.
Great.
That is really cool. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your answers. I think those informations are really helpful because to be honest, I've submitted like 3 or 2 times my resume to your company. But yeah, as you said, that I'm interested in T-Mobile, but I cannot say convinced reasons for you to cooperate with me in the future. So these informations are really helpful, and I'm glad that I am here today because I also heard that how you do your project, how you do the communication jobs in T-Mobile, then I can really learn how it works in your company, and then makes me feel like know more about T-Mobile, not just a cell phone or a technology company on the street. So thank you very much. And I have a quick question because I adjust my resume every day. Do you think it would be a plus or a good way for candidates to submit another page of their, like the second page of their CV, listing out what kind of project they had experienced before and what was their, the responsibility scope? Will that be helpful for you to understand us more?
Anybody want to take that one?
Yeah.
Oh, go for
Oh.
it, Karen.
Oh, well, I was gonna say, I mean, I think it can be helpful, but it depends on the role. I mean, if you're, I would think if you were, let's say, applying to a designer or writer role, you want to showcase your actual work. I mean, it's almost like a portfolio, right? So
Yeah.
you're, you know, sharing links or GitHub or something, you know, to show examples of your work. I do hire designers or kind of more environmental designers for our real estate team. So we do also look at their portfolio to see what types of work that they have done. It can be helpful, or at least just have it ready. So, you know, if in the job posting it says submission of a portfolio is required, or if the recruiter or hiring manager requests to see that, just so they can see your work, your tone, your style, then you'll just have it ready, right? That you can submit right away.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
of course.
Also, don't make it a comprehensive list. We don't need to see everything you did, just the things that are just breakthrough work that you're super proud of. And I would say use that page to do fewer of them, but really go into detail about like, what problem did you solve with it? What were the results of it? And if you have something to brag about there, then by all means do it.
Okay. Yeah. It's real helpful. Thank you.
Perfect. I saw that we have 2 more questions in the chat, and Samiran and Lindsay also raised their hand. How about we finish the 2 questions in our chat, and then we can get into the breakout room so Samiran and Lindsay could ask questions there directly, if that is fine. So Kirsten has a quick question about, she's wondering if there's anything that you look for from those that have gone through the Comm Lead program, specifically when evaluating the applications, in addition to a portfolio.
I mean, just the mere fact that you've been through it is like a good sign to me, because I know it's so well targeted to what we do. And, you know, I don't know if there's that many people that are familiar with the program, but I'm familiar with it. I've spoken to some of the classes before, and, you know, hey, there were 2 people on my team that were graduates of the program, including Kirsten. So I know, you know, just a sample size of 2, but, you know, I've had some really good results from that.
Awesome. Thank you, Rob. Last question in the chat from Tonto. Probably that's a social media related question. She's wondering, what's the chance of short video? How do you usually balance the video and static content to share across social media channels? Like, do you prioritize one social platform over others from the strategy perspective? Like, probably that's a question for Ellie, but feel free to jump in from others. Like, she's wondering between Twitter and LinkedIn, which is more effective to tell brand story through executive comms from your experience?
Yeah, this is a really good question. And this is a question that we talk about and think about daily in our roles, is what channels are going to be the most effective for what we're trying to accomplish. With the exec brand team, we've really been leveraging more on a LinkedIn platform. We have really good targeting capabilities there. And if we're trying to grow the professional standpoint of our execs, that's a really good place to go. We can move the needle in terms of people who are trying to reach, if we want to bring in the best talent, if we want to reach people who have similar roles to our execs, and we want to get them out in a leadership perspective. So it's a really great platform to do a lot of things, specifically with the exec that is more in line with an executive voice versus a brand voice. However, we use all of the channels. So we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. Those are kind of the main 4 that we use with our execs, and based on what we're trying to accomplish is when we decide what channel we're going to go to. And we have different strategies for each of those channels. So when we're looking at whether or not we're doing a video versus a static post, it depends on a lot of different things, but we do both. We'll do static, we'll do post, we'll do text, and we do a lot of testing as well to see which ones are working the best. We have opportunities to do an A/B testing where we can throw in one ad, we can put in a video and a static image, and then we can optimize for which one is performing best. We can pull learnings that way too. So a lot of our decisions are based on data and based on what's performed in the past, what we know is coming up in the future, and what works specifically for that exec, because each of their audiences prefer something different too. So there's not like one holistic way to kill it in social. There are so many different ways, and there's a lot of different levers that we can pull to make sure that we're successful with each of our execs on each of those platforms. But we also make mistakes, right? We screw it up and we call it wrong. And we learn from those mistakes, and then we make it better for the next time.
Awesome. This is a great answer. Thank you, Ellie. And thank you everyone for asking the great questions. And a big thank you to our guest speakers today. I think it's time for us to move to the breakout rooms to continue the conversation with the timing now. So we have another 30 minutes. And our event coordinator, Jessie, has created a few breakout rooms. So feel free to choose the one that you want to join based on the panelist name and title. This is a great chance for you to connect, ask questions, and build your network. We'll end like around 4:30-ish. So thank you for being part of our event today. You can join the rooms now.